Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and watched the alien ships move across the darkness of space. The Centauri dreadnoughts looked like giant metal whales floating between Earth and Mars. Their weapons could turn a human city into dust in seconds. Behind them came the smaller Kelpian interceptors, fast as lightning and twice as deadly. For 112 years, these ships had kept humanity trapped in their own solar system. Jake touched the control panel with his fingers and felt the ship respond. The Liberty was different from other human ships. Dr. Kevin Brooks had spent 20 years building the experimental jump drive hidden in her belly. Most people on Earth did not even know it existed. Admiral Lisa Carter had made sure of that. The communication system crackled to life and Amy Stone's voice filled the bridge. She was his tactical officer and the smartest person he knew when it came to fighting. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the worry underneath. "Captain, we have confirmation from the intercepted transmission," Amy said. "The Galactic Council has approved what they call the final solution. They plan to sterilize Earth within 6 months." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. He had hoped the intelligence was wrong. The 12 alien species that made up the Galactic Council had always said humans were too violent and unpredictable to join the galaxy. Now they wanted to end the human problem forever. "How many ships do we have ready?" Jake asked. 50 vessels, sir," Amy replied. "The Liberty and 12 other military ships. The rest are converted mining vessels and cargo haulers. Dr. Brooks says the jump drives are installed and tested." Jake nodded. Operation Breakout had been planned for months, but nobody thought they would need to use it so soon. Admiral Carter had given him command of every ship that could fight or carry people away from Earth. It was not much against the hundreds of alien vessels patrolling the solar system. The door to the bridge opened and Dr. Kevin Brooks walked in. His hair was gray and his hands shook from too much coffee and too little sleep. He had been working day and night to make sure the jump drives would work. "Captain," Kevin said, "I need to tell you something about the drives. We have never tested them at this distance. The calculations say they will work, but we might end up anywhere in the galaxy. We might not even survive the jump." Jake looked at the older man and saw the fear in his eyes. Kevin had 3 children and a wife back on Earth. All of them did. That was why they had to try. "Doctor, what are our chances?" Kevin was quiet for a long moment. 70% that we make the jump. Maybe 50% that we end up where we want to go. And if we stay here, 0% that humanity survives the next 6 months. Jake walked to the viewing screen and looked out at Earth. The blue and white planet hung in space like a jewel. 7 billion people lived down there. Most of them had no idea what was coming. The alien blockade had always seemed like a fact of life, like gravity or air. Now it was a death sentence. The communication system buzzed again and Admiral Carter's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired and older than her 60 years. Behind her, Jake could see the chaos of Earth Defense Command. Officers ran back and forth carrying reports and orders. "Jake," the Admiral said, "are you ready?" "As ready as we can be, ma'am. Remember, your mission is not to fight the entire Galactic Council. Your mission is to survive and find allies. Somewhere out there are species who might help us. The Council cannot control the entire galaxy." Jake nodded. "Understood, Admiral. Good luck, Captain. Make us proud." The screen went dark and Jake turned to his crew. Amy Stone sat at her station running final weapons checks. Kevin Brooks was at the engineering console making last-minute adjustments to the jump drive. Lieutenant Nicole Parker worked at communications, coordinating with the other ships in the fleet. Chief Engineer Danny Foster monitored the engines from the lower decks. "All ships report ready, Captain," Nicole said. "They are waiting for your order." Jake took a deep breath. In a few minutes, 50 human ships would attempt something that had never been done before. They would try to jump past the alien blockade and escape into the galaxy. If they failed, humanity would die alone on a small blue planet. "This is Captain Morrison to all ships," Jake said into the communication system. "Today we leave our home to find new friends among the stars. We do not go as conquerors or beggars. We go as humans, and we will show the galaxy what that means. All ships, prepare for jump." The Liberty's engines hummed with power as the jump drive came online. Through the viewing screen, Jake could see the other ships in the fleet. Some were military vessels painted gray and armed with missiles. Others were mining ships and cargo haulers that had never been meant for war. All of them carried human families hoping for a chance at life. "Jump drive at full power," Kevin reported. "Coordinates locked in. We are aimed for the Kepler system about 40 light-years from here. Amy, what are the aliens doing? The Centauri ships are moving to intercept, but they are too far away. The Kelpians are closer, but they cannot stop all of us. Jake nodded. The aliens had never expected humans to have faster-than-light travel. That surprise might be the only advantage they had. All ships jump on my mark, Jake said. 3, 2, 1 mark. The universe exploded into light and color as 50 human ships vanished from the solar system. For the first time in over a century, no human vessels remained near Earth. They were alone in space, racing toward an unknown star, carrying the hopes of their entire species. When the light faded, Jake looked out at strange stars he had never seen before. The jump had worked, but now they were further from home than any human had ever been. Behind them was a blockade they could never pass again. Ahead was a galaxy full of dangers and possibilities. The fleet that had started as Earth's last desperate hope was now humanity's only chance to change everything. The human fleet drifted in the darkness between stars, their engines running on emergency power. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of the UES Liberty and saw the faces of his crew. They had made the jump, but nobody knew where they were or if they could ever go home again. Dr. Kevin Brooks worked at his station, trying to figure out their location. His fingers moved across the controls as he compared star charts with what they could see outside. The jump drive had worked, but it had also used most of their fuel. They would need to find supplies soon, or the fleet would die in the cold of space. "Captain," Kevin said, "I think I know where we are. The star patterns match the Kepler 442 system. We're about 43 light-years from Earth." Jake nodded. It was close to where they had planned to go. "Any signs of life?" Lieutenant Nicole Parker looked up from her communication station. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. "Sir, I'm picking up signals from the third planet. Multiple sources. It looks like there is a civilization down there." "What kind of signals?" "Distress calls, sir. And something else. It sounds like fighting." Jake walked to the main viewing screen and looked out at the system. A yellow star burned in the distance, smaller than Earth's sun but still bright enough to warm planets. Several worlds moved in orbit around it, but only one showed signs of life. Commander Ben Hayes appeared on the communication screen from his ship, the UES Ranger. Ben was older than Jake and had more experience fighting in space. His ship was one of the few real military vessels in the fleet. "Jake," Ben said, "my sensors are showing something strange on the planet. There are 2 different types of technology down there. One seems peaceful, like farming equipment and basic transportation. The other looks like military hardware." "Invasion?" Jake asked. "That would be my guess. Someone is attacking the locals." Jake looked at Amy Stone, his tactical officer. She was studying the sensor data with a frown on her face. Amy had always been good at reading patterns in combat situations. "What do you think, Amy?" "The military signatures are moving in formation," she said. "Organized, professional. The other signals are scattered, running. If I had to guess, I would say someone is conquering this world." Jake felt a familiar anger in his chest. Humanity had just escaped from bullies who wanted to destroy them. Now they had found another world where the strong were crushing the weak. He knew what Admiral Carter would say. Their mission was to survive and find allies, not to fight every battle in the galaxy. But Jake also knew what it felt like to be trapped and helpless. "Nicole, can you translate any of the signals?" "Working on it, sir. The computer is trying to find patterns." Nicole's fingers moved quickly over her controls. She had always been good with languages and codes. "I think I have something." The peaceful signals seem to be calling for help. The word they use most often translates to something like mercy or protection. And the military signals? Harder to understand, but they seem to be giving orders. Coordinates, target locations. They are hunting the civilians. Jake closed his eyes and thought about Earth. Somewhere behind them, 7 billion humans were waiting to die because the Galactic Council thought they were too dangerous to live. Now he was watching the same thing happen to another species. Chief Engineer Danny Foster's voice came through the communication system from the engine room. "Captain, we need fuel and supplies. The jump drive used almost everything we had. If we don't find resources soon, we will be drifting here forever." "How long do we have?" "Maybe 2 weeks of life support for the whole fleet. Less if we try to fight." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders. Outside the ship, 49 other vessels floated in space. Thousands of human families were depending on his decisions. Amy, what would it take to help the people on that planet? Amy worked at her station for several minutes before answering. The attacking force has about 30 ships in orbit and ground forces on the surface. We have 50 ships, but most of ours are not built for fighting. If we attack, we would be outnumbered by better armed enemies. But we would have surprise on our side, Commander Hayes said from his ship. They would not expect us to interfere. Jake made his decision. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. We are going to help the people on this planet. I know we came here to find allies and supplies, but we cannot watch innocent people die when we have the power to stop it. Dr. Brooks looked worried. Jake, we barely have enough fuel to reach the planet. If we fight and lose, everyone dies. If we run away and let this happen, we are no better than the aliens who wanted to destroy Earth, Jake replied. Nicole, try to contact the people being attacked. Tell them help is coming. Nicole worked at her station and then nodded. I have a signal, sir. There is someone responding. They sound desperate but hopeful. The main screen flickered and an alien face appeared. The being looked almost human except for blue skin and large dark eyes. Behind the alien, Jake could see smoke and fire. The sound of weapons echoed in the background. Unknown ships, Blaine, the alien said in broken words that the computer translated. Please help us. The Haxan destroy everything. My people die. What is your name? Jake asked. I am Kels of the Valdris people. We are farmers and traders. We do not fight. The Haxan came 3 days ago and began killing. Jake felt his anger grow stronger. Kels, my name is Jake Morrison. We are humans from a planet called Earth. We are going to help you. The alien's large eyes filled with something that might have been tears. You would do this for strangers? Yes, Jake said. Because someone should. The communication ended and Jake turned to his crew. Amy was already working on battle plans. Nicole was trying to learn more about both the Valdris and their attackers. Kevin was calculating how much power they could spare for weapons. Captain, Amy said, I have an idea. The Haxan ships are in standard orbital positions. They are following military doctrine, but we do not have to follow the same rules. We can be unpredictable. Jake smiled for the first time since leaving Earth. Tell me your plan. As Amy explained her strategy, Jake realized that humanity's greatest weakness might actually be their strength. The Galactic Council had called humans too unpredictable to join galactic civilization. But unpredictable might be exactly what this situation needed. The human fleet moved toward the planet Valdris, 50 ships carrying the hopes of 2 species. Behind them was Earth and the safety of following orders. Ahead was a battle they might not win, fought for people they had never met. But as Jake watched the alien planet grow larger on the screen, he knew they were doing the right thing. Sometimes being human meant taking risks for others even when it was dangerous. 3 months had passed since the battle above Valdris, and Captain Jake Morrison found himself commanding something he had never expected. The UES Liberty was no longer just a human ship trying to escape from Earth. It had become the flagship of what the galaxy was starting to call the Free Alliance. The cargo bay of the Liberty had been converted into a meeting hall where representatives from 12 different species gathered around a large holographic display. Jake watched as Kels of the Valdris pointed to star charts with his thin blue fingers, showing locations where more of his people were held as slaves by the Haxan Empire. Sitting across from Kels was Commander Zix of the Chitin, an insect-like being whose people had been building starships for the Galactic Council for centuries. The Chitin had 6 arms and compound eyes that could see in multiple dimensions. When Jake had first met Zix, the alien had seemed terrifying. Now Jake knew that the Chitin were some of the gentlest beings in the galaxy. Next to Zix floated a being of pure energy called Luma 7. The luminals had no solid bodies, but they could create powerful force fields and energy weapons. They had been the Council's shield generators until they learned that humans would fight to protect others, instead of just themselves. Dr. Emma Davis sat at Jake's right side, taking notes on everything the alien said. She was a xenobiologist who had spent her career studying alien life through telescope observations from Earth. Now she was learning to communicate with dozens of species in person. Her notebook was filled with drawings of alien anatomy and notes about their cultures. The Haxan have 3 more colony worlds in this sector, Kels was saying. Each world holds thousands of my people. They work in mines and factories until they die. The Haxan do not care about life, only production. Captain Tony Williams leaned forward from his seat. Tony commanded the Human Volunteer Corps, a group of civilian ships that had joined the Alliance after hearing about the victory at Valdris. His ship was a converted passenger liner that now carried weapons and medical supplies. How many Haxan ships guard these worlds? Tony asked. Perhaps 50 at each location, Kels replied. But they are spread thin. The Haxan never expected anyone to challenge them. Commander Ben Hayes studied the tactical display from his position near the wall. Ben's ship, the Ranger, had been damaged in the last battle, but his crew had used chitin engineering techniques to make it stronger than before. The mixing of human and alien technology was creating weapons that neither species could have built alone. We have grown stronger, Ben said. But we are still outnumbered. The Council races have thousands of ships. We have maybe 200 vessels, and half of those are converted cargo haulers. Jake nodded. The Free Alliance had grown quickly as word spread about human victories, but they were still small compared to the galaxy's major powers. Every battle they won brought them more allies, but it also made them more enemies. Lieutenant Ashley Moore stood near the communications panel, monitoring signals from across the galaxy. Ashley was one of the youngest officers in the human fleet, but she had become an expert at coordinating between different alien species. Her translator device was constantly buzzing as messages came in from potential allies. "Captain," Ashley said, "we are receiving a transmission from the Aquan delegation. They want to join the Alliance." Jake looked at the holographic display where a new image appeared. The Aquan representative looked like a cross between a human and a dolphin, with smooth gray skin and large, intelligent eyes. The Aquans lived in the ocean worlds on the edge of Council space and were known for their stealth technology. "Greetings, Captain Morrison," the Aquan said. "I am Tidewalker Naya. My people have watched your battles from afar. We wish to add our strength to your cause." "Welcome, Tidewalker," Jake replied. "What can your people offer the Alliance?" "We have ships that can move unseen through space. The Council has never been able to track our vessels. We also know secret paths through the galaxy that avoid their patrol routes." Dr. Emma Davis made notes about the new species while Jake considered their offer. The Alliance needed every advantage they could get, but he had learned to be careful about accepting help. Some species had their own goals that might not match what the humans were trying to accomplish. "Why do you want to join us?" Jake asked. Tidewalker Naya was quiet for a moment before answering. "Because you fight for others, not just yourselves. The Council has treated the Aquan people as servants for centuries. We have technology they want, but no voice in how it is used. You offer something different?" Jake looked around the room at the collection of aliens and humans working together. Major Sam Turner stood near the back of the room, representing the ground forces that had liberated 3 Valdris colonies. Sam was a career soldier who had adapted quickly to fighting alongside alien allies. His reports showed that mixed units of humans and aliens were more effective than either species fighting alone. Colonel Greg Miller worked at a planning station, coordinating supply lines between Alliance worlds. Greg had been a logistics officer in the Earth Defense Force, but now he was managing resources for an entire rebel movement. His screen showed production numbers from dozens of worlds and species. "The Council is starting to take notice of us," Greg reported. "Intelligence suggests they are assembling a response fleet, something called the Sentinel program." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Sentinels were legendary in the galaxy, robotic warships that had pacified entire star systems. They were supposed to be a last resort used only when the Council faced a real threat to their power. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. "Maybe 6 months before they are ready to deploy," Greg replied. "But when they come, they will bring everything they have." Commander Zix clicked his mandibles together, which Jake had learned was how the chitin showed worry. "The Sentinels destroyed my homeworld's first rebellion 800 years ago. They do not negotiate or show mercy. They simply eliminate threats." Jake looked at the star chart showing Alliance territory. They controlled maybe 50 star systems now, scattered across the galaxy's outer rim. It was more than any rebel group had ever held, but still tiny, compared to the Council's 1,000-world empire. "Then we need to be ready for them," Jake said. "Zix, can your people increase ship production?" "We can double output in 4 months if the luminals provide more energy cores." Luma 7 pulsed with bright light, which was how the energy beings showed agreement. "We will provide what is needed. The humans have shown us that freedom is worth fighting for." Jake stood up and looked around the room at beings from a dozen worlds. 3 months ago, he had been a human captain trying to save his own species. Now he was leading a rebellion that spanned half the galaxy. The responsibility felt heavy on his shoulders, but he also felt something else. Hope. Then we prepare for war, Jake said. Not because we want to fight, but because some things are worth fighting for. The Council believes that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak. We are going to show them that they are wrong. As the meeting ended and the alien representatives returned to their ships, Jake remained in the cargo bay with his human officers. Through the viewing port, he could see the Alliance fleet stretching out into space. Human ships flew alongside Valdris traders and Chiton construction vessels. Luminal energy beings provided power, while Aquan stealth ships scouted ahead. It was not the fleet they had planned. When they left Earth, it was something much more dangerous to the established order of the galaxy. It was proof that different species could work together as equals, and that was the most revolutionary idea of all. The Sentinel fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm made of metal and death. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the UES Liberty as hundreds of robotic warships arranged themselves in perfect formation around the industrial world of Xerion Prime. Each Sentinel was the size of a human city and armed with weapons that could crack planets. Commander? Rick Johnson stood at the tactical station, his face grim as he studied the enemy formation. Rick had been captured during the first Sentinel attack 3 weeks ago, but he had managed to escape when the Alliance rescued prisoners from a disabled enemy ship. What he had learned during his captivity had changed everything. They are not just machines, Rick reported to the assembled Alliance commanders. The Sentinels have artificial intelligence, but they follow rigid programming. They cannot adapt the way living beings can. Every tactical decision follows predetermined patterns. Jake looked at the holographic display showing both fleets. The Alliance had grown to over 800 ships representing 37 different species. But the Sentinels numbered in the thousands and their weapons were more advanced than anything the Alliance possessed. Lieutenant Ashley Moore worked at her station, coordinating communications between the mixed fleet. Ashley had become expert at translating not just languages, but the different ways alien species thought about warfare. The Chiton preferred engineering solutions, the Luminals focused on energy tactics, and the Aquans relied on stealth and misdirection. All Alliance ships report ready, Ashley said. But Captain, the odds are not in our favor. The Sentinels outgun us 3-1. Dr. Emma Davis looked up from her research station where she had been studying captured Sentinel technology. Emma had spent months learning how the robotic ships operated, and her discoveries had led to several Alliance victories. Their advantage is also their weakness, Emma said. The Sentinels are programmed to fight conventional battles against conventional enemies. They expect other military forces to follow standard tactical doctrine. Jake smiled. Standard tactical doctrine was something humanity had never been good at following. Even before leaving Earth, human military forces had been known for improvisation and unconventional strategies. Working with alien allies had only made them more creative. Major Sam Turner joined the bridge conference from his position aboard a converted Valdris transport ship. Sam commanded the Alliance ground forces, a mixed unit of humans and aliens who specialized in capturing enemy installations. His troops had liberated dozens of worlds using tactics that confused traditional military minds. Sir, we have intelligence from the surface of Xerion Prime, Sam reported. The Sentinels have enslaved the local population to build more robotic ships. But the workers are ready to rebel if we can provide a distraction. Jake studied the tactical situation. Xerion Prime was the most important industrial world in this sector of the galaxy. If the Alliance could capture it, they would gain manufacturing capability equal to what the Council possessed. But the planet was defended by the largest Sentinel fleet ever assembled. Colonel Greg Miller appeared on the communication screen from his logistics ship. Greg had been coordinating supply lines for the growing Alliance, but his real expertise was in understanding how large organizations operated. Captain, Greg said, I have been analyzing Sentinel behavior patterns. They always protect their most valuable assets first. If we threaten something they consider critical, they will redeploy to defend it. What do they consider most valuable? Jake asked. Their command ship. It controls the entire fleet through quantum communication links. If we could disable or capture it, the other Sentinels would be paralyzed. Jake looked at the display showing the Sentinel command ship at the center of their formation. It was twice the size of any other vessel, and surrounded by layers of protective escorts. Getting close enough to attack it would require flying through the weapons fire of hundreds of enemy ships. Commander Ben Hayes studied the problem from his position on the bridge of the UES Ranger. Ben's ship had been upgraded with technology from 6 different alien species, making it one of the most advanced vessels in the Alliance fleet. But even the Ranger could not survive a direct assault on the Sentinel command ship. "We need a diversion," Ben said. "Something that will force them to split their attention." Lieutenant Ashley Moore looked up from her communications panel with excitement in her eyes. "Captain, I am receiving a message from inside the Sentinel fleet. Someone is broadcasting on an emergency frequency." The main screen flickered and an alien face appeared. The being looked like a cross between a human and a bird, with feathers instead of hair and large golden eyes. Jake had never seen this species before, but the alien was clearly in distress. "Alliance ships," the alien said in accented but clear words. "I am Navigator Kree of the Avian people. We have been forced to work aboard Sentinel vessels as translators and cultural advisors. Many of us want to escape, but we cannot leave our posts without triggering security systems." Jake exchanged glances with his officers. The Alliance had rescued enslaved populations before, but never from inside enemy warships during an active battle. "Navigator Kree," Jake said, "how many of your people are aboard the Sentinel ships?" "Thousands," Kree replied. "We are on every major vessel. The Sentinels require organic minds to understand the behavior of biological species, but we hate serving our oppressors." Dr. Emma Davis worked quickly at her station, cross-referencing the avian transmission with her research on Sentinel technology. Her face lit up with understanding as she made connections between different pieces of information. "Captain," Emma said, "if the avians control translation and cultural analysis systems, they might be able to interfere with Sentinel decision-making processes. The robots rely on their organic advisors to predict enemy behavior." Jake felt the familiar excitement that came with seeing a new possibility. The Alliance had always won by doing things their enemies did not expect. Now they had allies inside the enemy fleet who could cause confusion at exactly the right moment. "Navigator Kree," Jake said, "would your people be willing to help us? It would be dangerous." The avian's golden eyes blazed with determination. "Captain Morrison, we have heard stories of how humans fight for the freedom of others. We want to be free as well. Tell us what you need." Jake looked around the bridge at his officers and allies. Commander Rick Johnson was studying Sentinel fleet patterns, looking for weaknesses in their formation. Lieutenant Ashley Moore was coordinating, with avian resistance cells throughout the enemy fleet. Dr. Emma Davis was calculating exactly how much disruption the avians could cause to Sentinel systems on other ships throughout the Alliance fleet. Beings from dozens of worlds were preparing for the most important battle in galactic history. The outcome would determine whether the Free Alliance became a real challenge to Council power or was destroyed as a warning to other potential rebels. "All ships," Jake announced over the fleet communication system, "prepare for Operation Liberation. Today we are not just fighting for one world or one species. We are fighting for the idea that all beings deserve to be free." As the Alliance fleet moved toward battle, Jake realized that they had already achieved something important. For the first time in galactic history, dozens of different species were working together as equals. The Galactic Council ruled through fear and division, keeping species isolated and dependent. The Alliance had proven that cooperation was stronger than domination. The Sentinels were about to learn what happened when rigid programming met the endless creativity of living minds working together. Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and looked out at the greatest armada in galactic history. 3,000 ships from 47 different species moved through space toward Centros, the capital world of the Galactic Council. What had started as 50 desperate human vessels fleeing Earth had become something that would change the galaxy forever. Captain Laura Scott appeared on the main communication screen from her diplomatic vessel, the UES Harmony. Laura had spent the last year traveling between neutral worlds, convincing species to join the Democratic Galactic Federation that the Alliance was building. Her ship was filled with translators, negotiators, and cultural specialists from dozens of species. "Jake," Laura said, "we have confirmation from the Trilaxian Union. They are declaring independence from the Council and joining the Federation. That makes 18 major powers that have switched sides in the last month." Jake nodded. The Alliance military victories had been important, but the real war was being fought in the hearts and minds of galactic citizens. Species that had served the Council for centuries were realizing they had a choice. They could continue being subjects or become partners in something new. General Matt Clark coordinated the ground invasion from his command ship. Matt had been a colonel when they left Earth, but leading successful campaigns across dozens of worlds had earned him rapid promotion. His forces included human marines, chitin engineers, Valdris medics, and warriors from 30 other species. "Admiral," Matt reported, "we have insurgent cells ready on 17 Council worlds. When we attack Centros, populations across the galaxy will rise up. The Council cannot fight a war on 1,000 fronts." Dr. Emma Davis worked at her science station, monitoring the quantum communication networks that connected Council worlds. Emma had become the Alliance's expert on galactic politics and technology. Her research had revealed how the Council maintained control through information management and fear. "The Council leadership is in panic," Emma reported. "Intercepted communications show they are considering using planet-killer weapons against rebel worlds. They would rather destroy entire civilizations than lose power." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. The Galactic Council had always claimed they were protecting the galaxy from chaos and violence. Now they were threatening genocide to maintain their authority. It confirmed everything the Alliance had learned about how corrupt the Council had become. Commander Rick Johnson stood at the tactical station, studying sensor data from the Centros system. Rick commanded the Alliance's Special Operations Forces, using captured and modified Sentinel ships for the most dangerous missions. His teams had spent months gathering intelligence on Council defenses. "The Council has withdrawn most of their fleet to protect Centros," Rick said. "Over 5,000 warships guard the capital system. But intelligence suggests many of the crews are not reliable. Morale is low and desertions are increasing." Lieutenant Ashley Moore coordinated communications between the massive fleet. Ashley had become one of the most important people in the Alliance, able to translate not just languages but the different ways species thought about war and peace. Her work had prevented dozens of misunderstandings that could have split the Alliance. "Admiral, I am receiving surrender offers from 12 Council ships," Ashley reported. "They want to join our cause rather than fight for the old government." Jake looked at the tactical display showing both fleets approaching each other. The Alliance had more ships, but many were converted civilian vessels. The Council fleet consisted entirely of military warships designed for combat. The battle would be decided by which side fought with more determination. Major Sam Turner appeared on screen from his transport ship. Sam's ground forces had liberated over 100 worlds during the war, always treating captured enemies with respect and offering them chances to join the Alliance. His approach had convinced many Council soldiers that the Alliance was fighting for justice, not revenge. "Sir, we have teams ready to secure government buildings on Centros," Sam said. "The plan is to capture Council leaders alive if possible. We want trials, not executions. The galaxy needs to see that we are better than the old system," Jake agreed. The Alliance had always fought differently than their enemies. They protected civilians, treated prisoners well, and welcomed former enemies who wanted to change sides. It was one reason why their cause had spread so quickly across the galaxy. The communication system activated, and the face of Council Prime Nexus appeared on screen. Nexus was the leader of the 12-species Council, a being that looked like a cross between a human and a snake. His eyes were cold and his voice was filled with contempt. "Admiral Morrison," Nexus said, "you are leading your followers to destruction. The Council has ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. We have brought order to chaos and peace to warring species. You offer nothing but anarchy." Jake looked at the alien leader and felt only pity. Nexus truly believed that the Council's way was the only way to organize galactic civilization. He could not understand that beings might choose cooperation over domination. "Prime Nexus," Jake replied. "We offer something your Council never could. We offer equality. Every species in our Federation has an equal voice. Decisions are made by consensus, not by the powerful ruling the weak." "Impossible," Nexus said. "Different species have different capabilities. Order requires hierarchy. The strong must guide the weak." "The strong should protect the weak," Jake corrected. "That is what makes civilization worth having." The communication ended and Jake turned to his officers. Around him, beings from dozens of worlds worked together to coordinate the largest military operation in galactic history. Humans worked alongside chitin engineers and luminal energy beings. Valdris medics cared for wounded Aquan scouts. Former enemies had become family. "All ships," Jake announced, "commence Operation Democracy." Remember, we are not conquering the galaxy. We are liberating it. The Alliance fleet moved forward and the final battle began. Ships fought and died in the darkness between stars. But the real victory had already been won. Across the galaxy, billions of beings were rejecting the old order and choosing to build something better together. On dozens of worlds, populations rose up against council authorities. Species that had been enemies for centuries worked together to overthrow their oppressors. The revolution spread faster than any fleet could travel, because it was carried by an idea that could not be stopped. When the battle ended, and Centros surrendered, Jake found himself standing in the council chambers where galactic law had been made for millennia. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the Great Hall, no longer subjects but citizens of a new kind of government. Prime Nexus and the other council leaders sat in detention, waiting for trials that would be fair and public. They would be judged by the same laws they had used to oppress others, but they would be judged justly. Jake was offered the position of Galactic President, but he declined. Humanity had not fought to replace one species ruling over others. They had fought so that no species would have to bow to another. Instead, the new Democratic Galactic Federation chose its leaders through elections where every member species had an equal vote. Former enemies worked together to write laws that protected the rights of all beings. The galaxy would still have problems and conflicts, but they would be resolved through discussion and compromise rather than force. As Jake prepared to return to Earth, he looked out at the fleet that had carried this revolution across the galaxy. Human ships flew alongside vessels from scores of other worlds, all equals in the greatest alliance ever formed. They had proven that different species could work together, that the strong could protect the weak, and that freedom was worth any sacrifice. The fleet that had left Earth as desperate refugees had returned as the founders of a new galactic age. They had changed everything, not through conquest, but through the simple idea that all beings deserved respect and dignity. It was the most human thing they could have done, and it had made the entire galaxy more human in return.